Thank you for coming back. We're going to talk or just kind of have a discussion on a reflection of myself and ourselves, just kind of a grounding exercise. It's always good for us to, as philosophers, sit and reflect on where we are, where we've been, and what's happened. And for me personally, what I've been doing for the last 7 months is conducting deep philosophical introspective reflection um, under disciplined uh, philosophical guidelines, leading into what Socrates might consider an examined life, focused on our own inner works, where we eliminate things like anger, jealousy, and resentment. But even more, the reason we kind of take these things away is to try and eliminate incongruencies in our life, and helping us eliminate those incongruencies in our life allows us to put more selfhood in how we contribute to society so that we don't have what's Parker Palmer identifies as a divided life, where there's a division. And so in that, he talks about what's the tragic gap, and we need to stand within the tragic gap. And so we'll open up listening to some Parker Palmer on this real
Has
quick.
been as human beings to hold this tension between what is and the hardness of it and the darkness of it, and on the other hand, what we know to be possible because we've seen examples of it, not wish dreams, not fantasies, but we know what a world at peace looks like because every now and then that happens. We know.
So here Parker Palmer is talking about on a societal level where we focus on, we know what a peaceful society looks like because throughout history we can demonstrate records of this. This is how a peaceful society was arranged all the way down to the individual level. We have records, or at least we have enough information to kind of give us a sense or context of it. But more so in the idea of the individual as recognized as an organization. You as an individual as an organization have to often stand in what Parker identifies as the tragedy gap or the tragic gap. And so we're going to listen a little bit more to him and then where he gets on to about corrosive cynicism or irrelevant idealism. So let's tune back in and see what he's got going on.
What the sharing of abundance looks like because every now and then that happens. We know what forgiveness and kindness look like because every
See,
now
here he
and then
puts
that
it on the
happens.
personal level.
So we have to stand in this place between what is and what could and should be. But we have to stand there without flipping out on one side or the other. To flip out on the side of too much reality is to be drawn into corrosive cynicism. This is simply the way things are, and I'll cut my deal with it, and the devil take the hindmost.
Too much reality leads to too much cynicism. And this is often an association within broad philosophical contexts in Western society. I can confirm just from taking French class that realism was associated and attached to cynicism in both Frankish cultures, like within the internal Frankish culture, dating back to however long it's necessary to prove that kind of thing is identified as. So if we get too realistic, we get too cynical. But if we get too idealistic, we become detached or irrelevant. The truth is, you can fall down the hole of cynicism as far as you want to go and be as nihilistic as you want to be about the reality of the situation that we sit in, or you can try and ignore it through as much cognitive dissonance as possible and layering on as many bullshits and obligations and duties like uh, faith, family, church, uh, political ideology, support groups, all of these things, all of these layers of that just give us this idealistic, irrelevant, like we don't even know what's going on. We're completely detached from the world. The problem with this argument here within the United States is we as a country represent maybe 5% of the world's population, but are consuming up to 5 times that amount of, product or materials to support our habits. So we have a long ways to go in America before corrosive cynicism erodes our irrelevant idealism to the point that we realize what the reality is here within the United States and what it isn't. And a lot of people don't have concept of this unless you travel outside the United States. And it's terrible that you have to travel outside the United States to kind of get that experience. But the truth is the experience of meeting someone from a different culture is very similar and aligned to meeting someone of a different social class or a different economic class. In fact, meeting someone from different social classes is also expanding in the same way as meeting people from different cultures is expanding. Circling back through and getting back into this. How this reflects on me and myself and my own life and existence is Palmer later on goes and talks about how the division becomes a source of pain and a gap of who we are as individuals. What led me to my quasi sabbatical was approximately 7 months ago, December of 2018. I had a psychotic break brought on by a lack of sleep, a lack of self-care, and a lack of taking care of myself. This combined with mental health issues that I have from my time in the war caused me to have a little tiny freak out. Well, a huge, big, tiny freak out. I ended up when I was in the hospital for 5 days. And it was actually during a ethics course at Gonzaga that I had this. And we were looking at the kind of division between who we are and what we do and what we contribute to society. And myself, I've always identified myself as a servant, someone who, gives and gives and gives and gives and gives. I'm definitely part of the 20% who has done 80% of the work my entire life. And going back and reflecting and analyzing and looking at where I was at in my life, approaching what was about to be my graduation, and I started a new career and all of these additional stresses on top of that, helped me realize that all of this inner turmoil that I had, all of this kind of brooding that I had, was over my own concepts of what I saw are inefficiencies or ineffectiveness within the systems that are around us. And how I mean that is the social systems that are around us, the massive inefficiencies that are built within our government systems to help kind of create what is a power vacuum and pull and to help increase and bring in more revenue. It's a natural survival mechanism of the organization that you might call government. And I'm as an individual then here was living with a lot of pain, a lot of just inability to do something about what I saw as like ways that we could do things so much better, ways that we can improve things and create a better end product for the consumer, which is the taxpayer and the individual receiving the service. And I very much had this concept or mindset, or I was breaking out of this mindset of employee in an organization. I've never wanted to be someone who worked on the factory line for 55 years and then at the end of it get a handshake and a gold watch. I've always been interested in a lot of diverse and different things, and so I've bounced around and have had this non-linear path to get to where I am today. And I think a lot of us have in many ways, and don't necessarily want to pursue that long, stable, click, click, click. Here's 5 years, 10 years, 15, 20 years at the same spot doing the same type of stuff. And one of the reasons I survived so long in the military was every 2 years I was moved to a different duty station. I was constantly being relocated. Um, and so breaking out of that concept, that mindset of employee or devoted to a higher, like, what is it I would do? If I see these inefficiencies, how would I solve them myself? If I saw these, if I saw this discrimination, if I saw this inefficiency, and if, you know, calling it out within the organization only presents you as some kind of threat within the organization, and the organization kicks you out because you're, with the intention of love and candor, presenting what you see as legitimate discrepancies within performance, um, bridging on the point of not whistleblower, but bridging on that thing where you're saying, hey, I'm seeing this, I'm seeing this, I'm seeing this, I'm seeing this. And the inefficiencies usually aren't anyone's fault. It's just the system is so big and there's so many parts that a lot of people, it gets to a certain level and then it just has to be good enough. But then it's our responsibility to, if we see something, we can help move it along and push it along. And if that was true for me, then I needed to show it and prove it for myself. I needed to go out and find what was zero, what was ground for myself. I had to conduct an extensive amount of inner work because I had lived in what was or has been constant service, that I would just, I wasn't driven or motivated by any other thing besides my own furthered existence, my own hedonistic desire, and my long range plan of where I was trying to get to someday and the kinds of things that I was going to do to get there. Um, and so it's, you just got to get to a point in your life where you say, you are good enough. Go set the world on fire. Go change something. Go try something new. If you fail, it doesn't matter because failures don't matter. Wins and losses don't matter because our fortunes change so quickly that as long as we keep our position directed at the North Star, whatever our moral foundation is, or whatever our desire is, whatever our heart is, as long as we keep our who we are pointed at that North Star, whatever the next storm is, whatever the next day is, whatever the next trip is, however far off you have to zigzag and create kind of like whatever you might call like a vector or something, you're just getting from your A to your B. And that's how we succeed and we live life. And that's one of my kind of draws or affinities, or the reason you're going to see a lot of my black pug on different things is because I, for probably close to 20 years, have had this desire to own a black female pug named Lulu. And the dog represents a manifestation of years of hard work, including like high educational attainment. And apparently the entire time I had behavioral health issues and that I didn't even know about. So it just goes to show that you can accomplish whatever you want to accomplish. So if your life is divided, stop living a divided life. If you like living a divided life, if you like having your work over here and your home over here, live that divided life. Do that. Some people like to integrate things. Some people like to integrate life and work. Because what if I just made or could find a way to make money put a whole bunch of my selfhood, put a whole bunch of who I am into my whatever it is I have to create, and rub two sticks together and see if you can produce a fire. Everyone's got a skill they can sell, and yeah. So that's kind of my reflection and where I'm at. That crisis, that episode that I had a few months ago, led to what was the impetus or the foundation for my own business, my first business. I've never created a business before, but I've managed businesses and I've worked for different businesses almost my entire life, but I've never started my own business. And so just in the process of figuring out a way to do that for as cheap as possible has been really challenging and really fun. You essentially need about like a couple $1,000, maybe $1,000 just to get the very basic setups of a business. But I kind of found ways to do it, even cheaper, kind of on your own, kind of your own way, how to design your own websites and, that kind of stuff, like do it yourself kind of stuff to try and save you money for starting your own kind of what I call a micro business or like a subcontractor business or and so what I've designed is this crazy idea of what I consider a consulting cooperative that will help, um, you know, facilitate, negotiate, manage, contract, hire, and provide all of the different services that an organization may require for different organizational development like aspects or ranges. So if an organization comes in and says we need an executive coach because we have a new executive who needs some development, you can contact the Urban Survival Cooperative and we have, a list of qualified executive coaches that you can pick from. And let's say you need, on top of that, you might need some change management processes because you're trying to implement a new design element, you're trying to implement a new project, you're trying to implement a new program, and you need change management. Those kinds of services can help. We, the Urban Survival Cooperative, can come in and help you, guide you through those processes. And then kind of my focus or my goal, my contribution to what is going to be this collective that I hopefully will build over the rest of my life, and it will be to operate as kind of a government liaison, government affairs branch, or helping organizations engage in what are healthy and ethical political um, conversations or ethical political engagements within society. How does an organization uh, pick which candidates to give money to? Now that we recognize that corporations have the right to defend themselves with language, what ethics guide how these organizations say things, how these organizations conduct themselves, and for what purpose and for what end? And so that's kind of going to be my own little niche within the organization that I'm attempting to build. And this idea was generated while I was laying on the, crinkly flat mattress in a locked psychiatric ward a couple days before Christmas. Um, it's one of those things where coming out of my episode, I was very upset and very angry, and I thought about myself, how would I change things? How would I fix things? How would I these things that I saw that were wrong in the world? How would I do it within my own life if I haven't seen it, if I haven't experienced it? How would I create it? How would I manifest it? And so that's kind of what this business is my manifestation trying to meet a need that I see within. Just comes down to like ethical engagement with humans, like how do you engage with humanity that might be different or you might not understand, and what is your effect on that, um, what is your impact on that? What is your impact on society? What is your impact on yourself? All of these deep existential questions that are important for us to answer as individuals and as organizations. Essential things for us to discuss and talk about. And so reflecting and looking back, that's kind of how this conversation is going to evolve and kind of going to develop. And as I get more income or don't get any income or whatever, my production hopefully will increase and we'll see growth and progress and all of these kinds of things. And so on just a method of communicating ideas and kind of recording my own ideas on what this grander scheme is and kind of chunking it out, I'm just kind of recording and journaling a lot of these different things. So I appreciate you listening and sitting through this. It's a very long video if any of you have, but I hope you have a wonderful day.